Hello and welcome to today's webinar, The Latest Trends in Document Classification and Extraction. I'm Teresa Resick, Director of Webinars here at AIM, and AIM is your host and producer of today's event. And with me today are a team of experts in capture extraction from Axis Technical Group, and I'll introduce them in just a moment. But thank you for taking the time out of your very busy day to join us today. I'd like to thank Axis Technical Group as the underwriter of today's webinar. Without the support from our solution providers, AIM wouldn't be able to provide you with these free educational programs like our webinars. So Axis, thank you for your participation. And now I just want to introduce our panel of speakers today. And today we have Kevin Els, who is the Director of Marketing for Axis Technical Group. And for decades, Kevin has been providing product marketing strategy for leading organizations in the enterprise content management and document imaging industry with a passion for new capture technologies. Mark Warner is the Senior Vice President of Product Management and R&D, and he leads the product management and development across various disciplines, handling, commercializing, and enhancing the Axis AI platform. And additionally, he's supporting the real estate and financial verticals. Mark has spent close to 25 years in the C and VP level software and product development leadership experience in real estate information and technical industries. And we also have with us Vince Tonillo, who's the Vice President of Sales at Axis. And Vince has over 20 years of solution selling experience of complex enterprise software solutions to Fortune 500 companies and Global 1,000 clients. His focus has been in the business process management area with a heavy concentration on automated information classification and extraction and business process improvement. At Axis, Mr. Tonillo focuses on domestic and international direct and channel sales. So right now I am going to turn things over to Kevin to begin the presentation today.
Thank you for the nice introduction. My name is Kevin. I'll be your first speaker. We'll later be joined by Mark Warner, our VP of R&D, and Vince Tornillo, Access VP of Sales. Let's review the agenda. We have a full program ahead. We'll first discuss the challenges of complex document data extraction and document classification. Mark will explain how Access AI offers a new solution that incorporates natural language processing and machine learning to address these challenges. I'll provide a complete product overview and demonstration, and then Vince will discuss the benefits of our solution offering to service bureaus, system integrators, and resellers. Let's get started. We'll assume the majority of today's audience is fairly familiar with document imaging and capture solutions. Therefore, we'll get right to the core of our presentation, the challenges of classifying and capturing index information or metadata from complex document formats. So let's define what we consider complex documents. There are really three main document layout structures. Structured documents or forms. These consist of pages that have consistent layout and design. The index fields never change. Therefore, it's fairly straightforward to set up software to predict data locations for automatic data extraction. Semi-structured documents follow somewhat predictable index locations, like an invoice or a healthcare explanation of benefits, but additional data may fall into tables of columns that change based on a number of lines of data reported on the document. Unstructured documents are the real challenge. Index data desired can change from document to document, and there are many cases and countless numbers of variations of data positioning on these documents due to the embedding of the required data being embedded within a sentence, a paragraph, or randomly occurring anywhere on the page. Examples of unstructured documents include correspondence, contracts, deeds, loans, public land records, and even emails. Today's presentation will focus around how Access has developed a solution to take on not only those most challenging documents, but how the technology can also be applied to really any document format. We'll also discuss how the Access hosted solution can be a great alternative for vendors like yourself who prefer to outsource the capture process of document management. This can enable you, the service provider, to focus on offering an end-to-end solution without the burden of purchasing and learning how to use a software solution, even if you could buy one that addresses this most complex data extraction challenge. For any document imaging and data capture solution, there can be challenges. For years, software companies have been developing data extraction solutions. The majority of these solutions have focused on the structured and semi-structured solutions. The ability to capture data from forms is a very mature market, and there are dozens of excellent solutions out there. However, you still have to purchase and train your team how to use the software. The semi-structured market has solutions for many departmental needs, accounting and invoice processing representing the largest segment of the market, and therefore the best target. There are at least half a dozen excellent solutions for this sector. By developing template or patching matching solutions, invoice processing is now a well-established segment of the document capture community, and honestly, a somewhat saturated and competitive market. The most complex and challenging scenario is, therefore, unstructured content. A lot of companies claim to be able to work with these documents, but from our experience, very few have proven to be capable of successful execution. Access has developed a solution that fundamentally changes the economics of capturing information. The solution, Access AI, is the most advanced document classification and data extraction solution on the market. I'd like to share a little history on Access and how this solution was first developed. The underlying intellectual property has been in development for over 10 years, led by one of the brightest minds in the area of natural language processing. However, because the technology is built on multiple sets of proprietary algorithms that are orchestrated together, the processing power required to run the solution was regulated to the arena of supercomputers and was therefore cost prohibitive. As computing technologies advanced and costs came down, the viability of using the solution across everyday use cases increased significantly. Access made the decision to launch the product to market. When we first developed the software into a production setting, we were up against one of the most difficult unstructured document sets out there. The software performed exceptionally well. The software's ability to understand and accurately capture information far surpassed any other solution available, and rivaled the quality one would experience using double data entry approach. Since those early days, we've applied the software to multiple different use cases, as will be discussed further today, and it continues to prove itself as a way to fundamentally change the economics of capturing information. Since the original vision and the years of development of Access AI for unstructured content, Access has acquired a variety of clients with not only unstructured document challenges, but also scenarios of semi-structured and even form-based initiatives. Some of our clients have reached us to address document challenges like EOB healthcare records, or even government tax forms. What we have realized is that the technology can also be used for actually almost any style of document. Some organizations are not even looking for data extraction. They just want their paper files organized and identified, so their subject matter experts can navigate and manage their documents more productively. Document classification and separation come to the rescue in this scenario, where they send us a mixed batch of documents and we sort them out, provide index table information, and deliver back a well-formatted and classified document portfolio. Subject matter experts, or SMEs, at the client location only want to read the documents, but they don't want to spend hours trying to find the right page in a portfolio. Mortgage loan packets with literally dozens of document types are an excellent candidate for this application. Patient records and charts are other examples, and even oil and gas well files have been ideal applications for these offerings. Let's get back to the main focus of this presentation, the challenges of unstructured document data extraction. Here you can see a great example of an unstructured document scenario. This example, we're showing what's called a grant deed and a release deed. They're part of a mortgage package, and they are used to describe who's the legal owner of a property. The document has critical data used in some real estate transactions, including mortgage loan processing and title insurance, but the challenges are numerous. The documents change from city to city, county to county. It can not only be challenging in the layout, but also in the language used to describe the various key fields that describe the document. Here you can see 3 individual designs that are literally saying the same thing about the property. The format changes dramatically, and the indexes can be presented in tables or buried in sentences. When we emphasize the actual key index information, you can see they are not only complex to extract, but it will also take an expert to even decipher this page to find the pertinent index fields. It's really a complex layout. Not only in some cases the data is buried in the sentence, it's also in a language not suitable for database queries, for a line of business system. Many of our clients want this data normalized and reformatted to be consistent in their system. For example, dates may need to be all number, like day, month, year, or more complex challenges like taking the descriptions and turning them into alphanumeric patterns, like lot 15, block G, phase D, section 2, converted to 15-G-D-2. Traditionally, due to the complexity of these documents, clients have had to rely on internal data entry staff to process these pages, or they have outsourced the requirements to a third-party vendor. One of the pros of outsourcing is that it can help your business efficiency by not having to hire, manage, and support your own staff on these projects. But it's expensive to outsource key into a third party. Sure, it's cheaper than doing it in-house, but the costs do add up. If you're only doing a few hundred documents, this may not be a significant issue, but most of our clients are dealing with thousands and in some cases millions of documents. For some of our clients, the high cost of keying also made it cost prohibitive to capture all the key data elements they wanted. In some cases, they had to settle to only what they could afford. We have customers who are capturing only 12 data elements using Data Entry Shop when they actually wanted to capture upward of 200. It was just too expensive. When relying on a third party to hand key your data, you can run into some other issues as well. One of the issues we see come up time and time again is a drop in quality. Many of our clients have come to us because of the quality from their existing outsourcer was suffering. Sometimes the poor quality stems from an inability to retain staff members that have true understanding of the documents. Since most of the unstructured documents are relatively complex, operators require considerable training. From experience, we see a high turnover rate in the data entry shops. When the staff leaves, so does the knowledge, and the quality suffers. The beauty of using Access AI? It never quits. As I mentioned before, document imaging companies have been around for decades. In fact, many of the current Access team work for these companies. They make great products for many of the imaging challenges, most of which are forms or highly predictable semi-structured use cases. They use great OCR, ICR, image recognition, barcode extraction, and pattern matching, but they are not using some of the greatest new advances in language recognition technologies. They aren't truly designed to read the document. One other drawback from other software vendors is you actually have to buy the product, take extensive training to master the software. Now, it's not unusual for a software solution, but it is a huge investment if you're only using it a few times. Not to mention you need hardware to host these applications, and if you're processing tens or even hundreds of thousands of images, that's not a cheap investment. At Access, we're creating a new alternative. I would now like to pass the stage over to Mark, our VP of R&D and Product Development. Tell us more about it.
Thanks, Kevin. At Access, we have an innovative new solution to extracting data from unstructured content. Our new solution is different as it does not use template or forms-based data extraction. Template and forms-based data extraction require known patterns and actually coding to those known patterns to extract data from unstructured content. That template and form-based extraction is a problem because patterns change frequently between documents, so you'd be constantly coding to account for every pattern. This could be a problem if you're dealing with thousands of documents or tens of thousands of documents. Companies have tried to solve this problem by using existing technologies to extract unstructured data. Their technologies work well creating searchable search indexes like Google, word bags to be able to go in and search content, but for unstructured content they do not work well. We're actually trying to extract data from the content itself, not just a general sense of what is inside of the document. We aren't specifically looking for a word, but we're looking for a word that has meaning, like a person as the borrower of a loan, or looking at a rate of a mortgage on a mortgage document, or actually trying to look at services rendered by a doctor on an explanation of benefits form. So what we're using is new state-of-the-art technologies called natural language processing. Natural language processing, we start by dissecting the document into its lexical and grammatical components. For example, we look at a sentence and we can mark the nouns and verbs. The nouns would be the person, places, or things, and the verbs would be the actions between those entities. And we can have context of how they relate to each other. So in the document, we can identify all of the animals, all of the places, and then we can look for a specific data extraction point based on its context when we're looking for a person or we're looking for a place. So we actually look at the lexicon of the language or the English language in the unstructured content, and we break the words up into components based on grammar, just like the human brain. And we look at the relationships between those components and create patterns, mathematically create patterns for the structure of the sentence. When you're targeting a key data element that you want to extract from the unstructured content, those mathematical models and the relationships between the grammar, the lexicon of the language, and the entities themselves are utilized to create that model. It's a repeatable pattern that when we encounter a similar pattern in another document, we can automatically extract that data element. The advantage of using software to do the unstructured data extraction is it learns over time and becomes smarter as you train it further while working with the software. The quality and the accuracy of the data extraction increases over time. The software itself never forgets, never calls in sick, and never tires. Speaking of never forgetting, the confidence of the data extraction is critical. We don't want the software extracting data that is incorrect, because at that point it'll make all data being extracted subject to scrutiny. The software itself will prompt the user to help identify areas where it cannot extract data automatically. When the user identifies the data that was supposed to be extracted, the mathematical models using the natural language processing may be modified. It's critical at that point that the software understands what the user identified as data being extracted, such that we don't update the model erroneously based on operator input. So we won't just utilize what the operator has done. We look at patterns of the operator extracting data using that scenario multiple times so that it's a repeatable process. So this product sounds complex. This technology is super advanced. You're probably asking yourself, how am I going to learn all this and who's going to learn it? The beauty is, you don't. So currently, Access is hosted as a service. We host the hardware, we host the software. We train the system on your documents and return you the data you're looking for. It's as easy as that. I'll pass it back to Kevin now to explain how it works.
Thanks, Mark. I'd now like to review a sampling of our customer use cases and the benefits they received. Title plants is an industry term for a database used in title searches for insurance, and they are built up from key data from publicly recorded real estate documents found in government offices. This may include deeds, mortgages, defaults or foreclosures, liens, judgments, assignments, releases, and other documents. Typically, to build a plant, vendors would have to go to public offices and either scan the paper documents or acquire images from the government office. Then, due to the complexity and the variety of the document and data types, legal descriptions, vestings, etc., the images are traditionally sent offshore to vendors who will manually key the information. This may not seem like a huge task, but consider that some title plants contain records on millions of properties. That's a lot of manual data entry, not easy to key, and requires specially trained data entry personnel. By using Access AI data extraction automation, these documents can be processed in a fraction of the time required by offshore vendors. Our data entry team would still be used when automation is unable to extract the required fields because of poor quality or illegible documents. This could be the case when the deed of a property was handwritten, which is often the case on 100-year-old land deeds used in the gas and oil industry. The advantage of Access, our software will determine what documents can be automated and what needs human intervention. The process is much faster and, more importantly, cheaper. As I mentioned previously, mortgage loan packets contain tons of paperwork. In many cases, mortgages can run into the hundreds of pages and dozens of key index fields needing to be captured from a variety of document types and formats. While some docs are similar, many vary by provider. For one of our clients, it was taking over 3 hours to sort manually through the loan to find and extract up to 100 to 300 fields of data. By implementing a software alternative, this could be done in minutes. Quality control assures the data accuracy, and human intervention could be provided when the software is not reaching the levels of confidence set by the service level agreement. What we have discovered is the more pages in the document or package, the more valuable a software solution. The software does not lose its place on a document. It can process and read the pages exponentially faster, and boy does it do data entry quickly. In the area of healthcare, we have a number of clients using our extraction solution for claims processing. Extraction has been set up to process CMS 1500s and 1450 forms, also known as HICFA. Not only is the data extracted, but the business rules are applied to return the data in a standardized format called 1837. Now, 1837 is a standardized format designed to expedite the goal of achieving total EDI, or electronic data interchange, for claims processing and payments. While claims processing has been around for years, the challenge has always been extracting data. This is an excellent example of a situation where a pure extraction solution just didn't cut it. The client needed to capture information, not just returned as a table of data, but in a format capable of EDI submission of a healthcare claim. We have another client who needed tax forms processed. Although this is really a form-based solution, and there are other solutions for accomplishing this, the client wasn't interested in maintaining the software, licensing, or setup and configuration. They realized that the tax forms changed every year, and they really didn't want to deal with setting up and training their software every tax season. They had tried using another outsourced provider, but they found the quality of the data returned wasn't accurate. They absolutely had to have high-quality results. Not only did Access provide accurate, high-quality results, but by using Access as a solution provider, they knew we were available on demand, and all they would need to do is send us samples of the new tax forms each year. In the oil and gas industry, a client of one of our partners wanted to extract data from public land records in order to search for mineral rights and capture related information. At the outset of the project, our partner was using a 100% hand keying approach. However, because of the unstructured nature of these land records, even the hand keyers had a hard time capturing the information correctly, so the quality was suffering, and our partner was falling behind. When they came to us, they were about to lose the contract. Within 15 days of engaging with us, we had the system up and running, fully trained and extracting data, and within 60 days the project was back on track. In addition, the partner was able to reduce their internal costs by 50% as compared to their hand keying operations. It was wildly successful and fundamentally changed the way this partner approached oil and gas projects from that moment on. That's just a small sample of our client installations. We've also been developing proof of concepts for clients for a number of scenarios. Banks searching for client contracts for regulatory impact, data companies pulling information from disparate sources, healthcare companies trying to ascertain information in free-form text like clinical trials, law firms searching for correspondence in a discovery process. We look forward to hearing from you regarding your other challenges that you've encountered extracting information from other unstructured document scenarios. As we have mentioned, Access is a hosted solution. We do most of the work. I would like to run a couple of poll questions regarding your use of outsourcing for capture. I have a couple of questions.
Well, great, thanks. Now we are going to take this first poll question. So let me go ahead and ask the first question out there to the audience members, and it'll pop up for you in just a moment here. And the question is, what types of content are you processing today? And you can select multiple answers here. Are your content types structured, such as forms, semi-structured, such as EOBs, invoice, PODs, tables, things like that, or unstructured content, such as correspondence, email contracts, free-form, text mortgage, things like that. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to ask Vince to come in here and chat with me about this and the results that we're seeing. And Vince, I'm starting to see a wide variety of different content types that people are processing here, and I want to comment on what you're seeing here.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty evenly distributed, across all the content types, which is not uncommon. We see that pretty regularly throughout the industry, with the structured and semi-structured probably being the most mature. And this will kind of lead us into our next question of looking at that unstructured content and how they're currently processing that today.
Okay, so let me go ahead and push out this second poll question out to the audience members. And this question is, for those who are processing unstructured documents, how are you capturing that information? And again, you're welcome to select multiple answers here. Are you doing that through manual data entry, on-premise, out-of-box software, or are you using on-premise software with custom scripting? And feel free to go ahead and click those answers there. And it looks like we're seeing a bit of the mix with the manual data entry or the on-prem software with the custom scripting. Are you seeing that also in your own customer base as well there, Vince?
Yes, this is split exactly down the middle, 50-50. So we see a lot of solutions that are out there that require extensive amount of custom scripting to get them to work, and then also manual data entry is really probably the most prevalent that we've seen out there. But it looks like the audience, it's a pretty good mix, 50-50.
Okay. I'm actually refreshing my the get results button here, and I'm actually seeing that mix. So it's still I'm still seeing a high number here of manual data entry as well.
Right. Yeah. It looks like I just refreshed as well, and there's a little bit of out of the box software being used as well. So that's probably below 10%. It looks like.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and
yeah. So I think they'll be excited to see kind of what we have to offer here as far as addressing this unstructured content.
Okay. And let's go ahead and look at our third poll question that we're going to ask the audience members. And it's, if you're processing unstructured documents, how well is that working? And select one here. Is it great? Is it good? Is it fair? Not so well at all. Let us know how it is working for you within your organization. So we're going to go ahead and push that question out to you there, and go ahead and click on those results there. Seeing, good, here the answers coming in here. And I see that it's working just like good to fair for the people in the audience members. No one's answering that it's, great, fantastic for them, or not quite well at all. So definitely seeing just middle-of-the-road responses in here. And
yeah, it just refreshed, and it looks like it's 50-50 there as well. And again, we see that because of the nature of the unstructured content being highly variable, being embedded in paragraphs, it's very difficult to get good results across a wide variety of document types.
Okay. Well, thanks everyone for answering these poll questions, and I think we're going to go back to Kevin for some more of the presentation.
Thank you for sharing your information on the poll questions. I'd now like to go over a product overview and demonstration of the software. For those familiar with document imaging, our product follows basically the same process of capturing, classifying, extracting data, validating, and delivering it to a back-end system. Here's a high-level overview of the product model. Images are brought in, OCR'd, converted to XML. We extract the information, apply rules on the information, and check for confidence. If there's any validation or error correction required, we can do that. And then we export the information for import to your line of business system. When we capture information, it's generally a paper format, usually a TIFF or a PDF file, but we can read electronic documents, data sources, e-documents, and even email. What we'll do once we capture them is we'll convert them to a standardized format to input into the system. Next, the documents are classified by the Access AI engine to determine what kind of document type. In the case of a mortgage, it could be a deed, release, HUD, any type of document that's been predefined by the system. If we receive a document that's really a combination of multiple documents, we'll go through and classify the documents by looking through the document, looking for starting and endpoints for each individual document. We'll separate the documents and then create unique files or images for each unique document type. Next, the extraction process will occur, and Access AI Engine will look through each document and extract the unique fields specific to that document type. Our quality control and validation operators will be notified by the software for character level correction or review and fix any questionable characters. Keep in mind, the system learns as we use it, so if a question occurs, for example, as you see here, probably wouldn't really happen, but if the letter I was mistaken for the letter 1, the system would prompt the user saying, this is a noun, it probably shouldn't have a number in it, prompt the user to correct it, and then the system learns to never prompt the user for that in the future. Once the data is corrected, processed, and reviewed, the system formats the data for the client, and we export the information for import into the line of business system. Now, in the interest of time, we cannot spend the time required to show you the whole training process of how our software is trained, how it's tuned, and so forth. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes talking and describing, in a little bit of demonstration, of the training process of how we capture and classify the information, train it, and then teach it to validate or learn as it goes. The first step, as I mentioned before, is capturing the information and converting it to a standardized format. Once we have documents in a standardized format, we then want to teach the system what these documents look like and define their names. We do this by taking samples of truth data, documents, examples of documents, and teaching the system what a document actually looks like. So we'll take samples here of example of HUDs, releases, deeds, etc., and define what a document looks like. Now, in many cases, as I've mentioned before, documents, especially in unstructured, change dramatically, but they do represent the same document. For example, here we're seeing a couple of release documents, and they're dramatically different. Now, the software will see this. If we drop a whole bunch of a folder in and say these are all release files, and the system recognizes there's massive differences in these documents, software will create what's called clusters. Now, clustering works in a couple of ways. What it could do is group a bunch of documents that are all dramatically different. Then it could also set up another group of a bunch of documents that are very much the same. Once you have these different clusters, we go into a training process and show the system where the information is on these different document configurations or layouts. Here we're looking at the AXSI configuration module for defining document types and field names. This is going to be a very short demonstration, and we're only going to define just a couple of documents and fields. We're going through here and defining two document types, a deed and a release, and just one index from each of those documents. Once we've defined the documents, we're going to take samples and highlight the information that we want to extract off the documents, and we tag the information. We take as many tags as required to get a good sampling of the document. Now, what's unique about this is we can not only tag paragraphs or sentences, but we can tag whole areas of the document that span multiple pages. And the software won't capture information that's in between these tagged areas. Some paragraphs, like this one right here, can span 2 pages, but you wouldn't want the information that's sitting at the top of the page. You just want the context of these paragraphs. Now, we seem to have a good number of captured samples here. And even looking at this, you can see how much information could be required to type into the system if you're doing manual data entry. We're now going to select another batch or another cluster, and we're going to go ahead and choose to tag the borrower name. Now you can see this borrower name is an embedded index that can be found inside a sentence. And you'll see from just a small sampling, the format of this is somewhat similar, but still different in the way it's described inside the sentence, with different words around it, different order, and certainly different locations on the page. Once again, we'll take as many samples as required and tag the information on this particular cluster. And as we showed earlier, there are many different clusters for this type of document format. Now, once the training is completed, we'll run a batch of documents through and see how successful it does extracting and finding information from those documents. At this point, if it fails to find information on certain documents, it will separate those documents for us and require us to go back and train even more. Once this training's been completed, we'll then tune the system to find the documents and assist it on maybe defining if it's a noun, if it's a verb, other things to help the software tune in and find the information we're looking for more accurately. Once we have a good trained model, we'll go ahead and apply it against real documents and see how it does against the real documents. We'll extract the information and then perform that post-processing conversion. We'll take a look at first the extracted data. And as you can see, this extracted data could be just a single word, multiple words, uppercase, in this case all uppercase, could be uppercase and lowercase characters. And in some cases, there's terms that need to be reformatted using business rules. In this example, we can see the lot was extracted as lot 15. The user, or the client, actually wants that information just provided back as 15. And this could be renaming a trustee name to change the order from Jennifer Doe to Doe Jennifer, many other types of business rule processes. Once the information has then been converted, we'll send it into a validation to make sure not only do we extract the right data, but the correct business rules are applied. We're now looking at the Access AI Operation Manager, and here you can see we're moving through a variety of different documents, looking at the extracted values and also looking at the post-processing values. You can see as we go through the navigation, it will highlight the fields that we are reviewing, showing both the extracted value and the post-processing value results. As you can see here from these examples, in the case of the string of section 30, it's been changed to a number format of like 30-7-16W. We find that many of the systems, especially for the land title industry, this information needs to be database friendly, and it's really changed to a format that's more practical for querying from a database. We can see here examples of different strings that have been changed from uppercase to lowercase, changed the order, and extracted various fields out or removed certain fields, like the example here of the block 7 is now just reduced to a 7. We can also run some rules to run a little reformatting. For example, here the lot 21-26 is now being changed to lot 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Much more practical for somebody searching to find information on lot 24. So once this information has been reviewed and checked for quality, it's then released for our clients to import into their line of business system. As I mentioned before, this is a hosted service where we're doing everything. We're hosting the software and data centers. We're doing the configuration, setup, validation, soup to nuts. In the future, there'll be ability for the clients to train on their own documents and validate their own data, or a hybrid solution where we train the system, but the clients validate their information. As I mentioned, we're currently hosting our solution in data centers, and we're moving into Azure for greater scalability. I'd now like to introduce Vince Tornillo, our VP of Sales.
Thank you. I'd like to talk a little bit now about the benefits to service bureaus, BPOs, and system integrators, and even potentially data entry shops. Just like many of you, I've been in the capture business for a long time, in providing advanced data capture and extraction solutions for a variety of large capture providers. I've worked with many of you in the past, and while these solutions have worked well for ongoing projects or applications, we were always challenged in working with BPOs and service providers due to conflicting business models. Let me explain what I mean. So let's talk about the ongoing project and where it worked well. For an ongoing project, you might have the time to set up the system, to train your employees, to acquire the hardware, pay the licensing on the software because it was an ongoing project and the ROI was there. But typically for BPOs or service providers, or even system integrators or data entry shops, these projects are typically shorter. They might be 3 to 6 months in length. You would spend that time trying to set up the system and get it tested and in production. So the ROI just wasn't there. Secondly, was licensing challenges. You typically charge per document based on the number of pages, based on the amount of data you're extracting or typing in or pulling off the page, where the software provider would typically charge a volume either monthly or yearly. And those two models didn't mix due to fluctuations, due to the projects being finite. So you typically have to buy more software than you needed, and those models just didn't work. While Access AI offers a solution for your most challenging capture applications, one of the things that we wanted to do when we brought this to market was be considered very easy to do business with. We really wanted to align your business model with our licensing instead of trying to fit that square peg in the round hole that we banged our heads on the wall for years. Talk a little bit more about that later. So the first benefit is really speed to production. Because you don't need to train your people, stand up a system, test, get into production, we can get you up to speed very quickly. We use our resources, we train the model, we're very familiar with it. We'll work with you to make sure the data is accurate, and we can get you up and running very quickly. That would address those shorter-term projects, being able to realize your savings much quicker. Secondly, we offer a turnkey solution. We have the ability to do the validation on our end, where we can return back classified, separated, and extracted information validated back to you, or you can leverage your resources, or we could do a combination of both. Additionally, we can integrate into your workflow so it's seamless to how your users use it today. While we can handle all your document types, you may already have a solution workflow that works very well for your structured documents, but need a solution for your unstructured documents. You can send us your unstructured documents, and we can send those back to you as well. You can brand it as your own. There's no training on your part other than if you decide to do the validation. It's extremely scalable. We can spin up and spin down processes instantaneously. So we can scale on demand, handle volume fluctuations, and meet those accelerated turnaround times. So let's talk a little bit about that licensing. Again, we decided to align this the way you do business. So today, you charge by document, by number of pages, by the amount of data pulled off the document, characters. We can align our model with the way you do business today. We can provide you a per document pricing based on the number of fields or the number of classification elements. So it's in alignment with how you do business. Additionally, we have the flexibility to look at alternative pricing scenarios. I have one client that's looking at transactions. They have a transaction, it's considered a package. It may go back and forth 5 or 6 times to them, and they need to extract data each time. We can price it out that way. So we have a lot of flexibility on how we do business. In the pricing model, there's several factors that go into it. One, do you need just classification? Do you need classification separation? Do you need data extraction? And then on the data extraction side, what is the complexity of that extraction? Is it just a simple field like a date or an account number? Or is it more complex like a legal description or some information buried in a paragraph? So we take all those factors into account and we price it out. And typically we say that we can save you anywhere from 20 to 50% over how you're doing it today. If you're doing manual data entry, or if you look at the total cost of ownership of buying software, hardware, training people, and getting a system up installed and running, we feel very comfortable that we can save that, and we're willing to prove that out to you. That should give you a high-level overview of how we can work together. Please feel free to reach out to me personally if you have a project or you're interested in discussing a partnership. Back to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Vince. I would now like to review what we've discussed today and talk about the next steps and open the floor to question and answer. What we have discussed today are the challenges of complex document data extraction and document classification, and how Access AI offers a solution that incorporates natural language processing and machine learning to address these challenges. You've seen how the solution helps solution providers like yourself provide a faster solution to your clients that reduces errors and improves productivity, and yet costs less than other alternatives like data entry. It requires little training or additional software or hardware investments. Now we have a lot more to demonstrate on the product, but in the interest of time we could not show you it all today. We would be delighted to set up a one-on-one demonstration and dive into the discussion of your clients and their challenges. Plus answer any questions that we've not addressed today or covered in the Q&A. After the presentation, we'll be sending you a follow-up email with contact information and links to more information on the solution. I would now like to open up the session for questions. Some of your questions may not be appropriate for our general audience, and if we don't get to your question, we'll follow up with you directly within the next few days. For those of you without questions and dropping off the presentation, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the presentation stimulating and informative, and it's been a pleasure presenting to you. We look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you. Now let's get to the questions.
Excellent info. Thank you. And let's move on to those questions. So, Kevin, let me have you come back in here once again and go ahead and take over for the rest of your team here.
Thanks, Teresa. Can you hear me all right?
Most certainly.
Excellent. So, first of all, I'd like to welcome our foreign attendees. The reason I bring that up, we have a couple of questions coming in from South America, and it's pretty much the same question but a different language. The question is, do we support other foreign languages besides English, since the software is written for natural language processing English? And of course, they're looking at languages of both Spanish and Portuguese. Mark, you want to field that one?
Sure. Because we leverage several technologies to deliver a complete solution, we can handle different languages for structured and most semi-structured documents. The natural language processing portion of our solution for the unstructured documents relies on the lexicon or the vocabulary of the language and the grammar that sets the rules for sentence structure. And our data extraction engine today has algorithms that are currently only configured around the English language. With that said, though, other languages are not out of the question and could use the Access AI technology depending on the demand. So it is possible to load other lexicons and grammar sets into our engine, but there is some minor tuning that has to happen around the algorithms that process that data, and it is possible.
But today we are not doing it. We're only using the English language.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Another question, and we really didn't cover this. Of course, this is really a document management, document imaging type solution, but we didn't really talk about us scanning the pages. The question is, do we scan the pages? And Mark, I'll let you field that one again, too.
Okay, thanks, Kevin. Currently today we do not scan, but we do have partners that can take care of that for you. We haven't had any requirements from our clients today to scan documents. In many cases, the documents are coming from existing content management repositories. But we do have partners available to do the scanning for you if needed.
Thank you. Next question is, during the case studies, we really talked about big installations, big projects. What is the smallest size project that Access would take on? Vince, how about you take on that one?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin. Yeah, so we handle a variety of different sizes of projects. We actually have done some smaller projects with one of our large partners. It was for a large U.S. bank. It was a few thousand documents, tax documents that came in a couple of times a year, and the challenge they had was being able to handle the changing forms on a regular basis and be able to scale the volume very quickly. And while it was pretty small, like I say, a few thousand over a couple of months, twice a year, what they liked about the solution was our ability to get up and running very quickly and get very high quality results back to them in a very complex data form to integrate into their system. The other piece of that was it really, the partner liked it because it really opened a lot of doors within this large financial institution, showing what they could do. So they're actually going after much bigger projects. So we'd look at those and be able to work with anybody on the size of the project, depending on what their needs are.
Thanks, Vince. Mark, this one's for you. This is always a tough one. Who's the competition?
Oh, nice. For unstructured document capture, we'll talk about that because there's a lot of structured tools out there in the industry. But we've seen a number of competitors entering the market over the years. But with our experience talking to our customers and resellers, their solutions really don't deliver well. The solutions looked good during the demo phase, but in production there was a sizable amount of custom development and scripting, and they were finding their SLAs weren't being met on data quality and things like that. So for us, by combining the computer automation and human validation, our SLA and quality exceeds the levels we've seen from other vendors. Also, though, we do allow the customer to use and do their own validation and correction using our data tool sets. So the SLA, for both the actual automation part versus the data extraction and validation part can be done in-house or by the customer itself. Is that
Vince? Maybe you want to touch on that, on how we, or both of you guys, but probably not at the same time, on how do you handle these custom requirements or custom integrations that are required?
Yeah. So Access's history, we've been a custom software development shop for 13 years. So those types of custom integrations, working with other systems, are very familiar with us. So we always consider that kind of the easiest part of the solution. When we went off and developed this unstructured solution, we decided to tackle that big challenge first. But we feel very comfortable that we can get into virtually any type of system through XML, through custom, through APIs, or a variety of different custom integrations as needed.
So, since there is some custom requirements and some integrations, how do you price? I mean, you covered some of the pricing before, but how do you stay competitive in such a market with so many different options out there?
Yeah, well, first of all, the solution, being able to extract that information, I don't know if you wanted me to get into the actual pricing or pricing scenarios, Kevin, or you want to talk about just the custom part?
Just the high level is how does it stay competitive?
Yeah. So typically we can say that, if you're doing this manually or you're leveraging some out-of-the-box solution that requires, extensive setup, we can stay pretty competitive by leveraging our resources to build and maintain the system so that you don't have to. We have people that are very knowledgeable in our solution, so we can set it up very quickly. We typically say that we can save you probably 20 to 50% over kind of how you're doing it today.
Very good. Well, I'm looking at the clock here, and we have a couple of other questions, but they're very specific to that person's needs. New one just came in. I think it's worth talking about. How do you process handprint, and both with dropout boxes and cursive? And Mark, I'll let you field that one. And I think we'll probably make that the last question in the interest of time, and I'll allow Teresa to come back in and do some closing remarks. But Mark, handwriting?
Sure. Give me the hard question. Handwriting.
Oh, come on.
We can process ICR, but obviously that's the intelligent character recognition type engines that look at handprint. The problem with handprint is it can vary so much that the quality of hand-printed documents, unless you're telling the user or the person creating the document that this is going to be recognized by a computer, it causes major issues. If it's block print, that is doable using an ICR engine and reading that in and using our technology as we talked about during the presentation. Dropout boxes and check boxes and things like that, not a problem. We have the technology to do that, but the handprint itself, that always raises questions, and we don't spend a lot of time today with our customers in the handprint arena, but we have that question asked often, and if needed, we will use ICR engines to try to accomplish that.
Excellent.
I hope that answers the question.
Right. No, it did. Teresa, closing remarks?
Most certainly. Thank you. I have the contact information up here on the screen here for Access AI. If you go to the access-ai.com, you can get some product information, or you can reach out to these guys by the email address that's on your screen. And just wanted to remind everyone to, below the slide area, if you would click on that feedback and survey link and offer us the feedback. And I'm also clicking a few slides up here with some other resources on AIM's website to tell you more information and help you with to learn more about all the different ways that we can help you in with improving your business and strengthening the connections with your customers. And so all of that's all really good information to have there. And now that we are at the end of our webinar hour, I do want to ask each of the speakers that we've had with us today for their closing thoughts or a key takeaway, because there's a lot of really good information that we've shared today. And I want to start first with Vince Tornillo, your closing thoughts today.
Yeah, well, first I want to thank everybody for attending, and what we've seen, and especially in the poll questions, and it's pretty standard in the industry that the unstructured content has really been a challenge, and most people are handling that, or a good portion of the people are handling that manually. What I'd like to share with you is, take a look at what we can do. I think we can save you a lot of time and money in being able to offer this to you in kind of a turnkey fashion.
Thanks, Vince. And Mark Werner, your closing thoughts today.
As we watch the industry over the past years and currently, we're seeing a lot of changes in the technology sector around natural language processing and machine learning. So this is coming. This is here today for us for data extraction. It is successful. The software works as described. It works almost like the human brain, creating mathematical models around sentence structure and grammar. So, we'll continue to enhance our product over the years. Someday, humans won't be needed for a lot of these processes. We see the changes happening year to year. And
humans are always
those are my thoughts. Humans are always needed, yes. You're correct. They'll always be needed. Maybe. You see the robot arms on car manufacturing. Someday there's going to be the computer just sitting there processing all the data.
Definitely. Thanks, Mark. And Kevin Ells, your closing thoughts today.
Well, first of all, I hope computers don't take over marketing, guys. I hope to be in this market for many more years. One of the reasons I joined this organization was because I'm fascinated by document imaging, document capture technologies. I've been doing it for 20 years, and when I saw this technology, I saw the potential for really an untapped market. Now, we're tapping some pretty obvious opportunities here with like correspondence and contracts and some of these documents we're seeing in the legal space and the healthcare space. But I think something that's what we're looking forward to is what we don't know is where this technology can take us in the future. Many cases, people are just tapping this information to put it into a database for our line of business process. But there's other ideas we've been churning around about using it for big data analysis. Lots of big data analysis, lots of power, processing power out there to look at information, but in many cases that information buried in documents was inaccessible because it was cost prohibitive to go in there and find these different variables and different patterns that were going on in documents. So I think it's an exciting time, as Mark said, to be having the power of these machine learning engines and human natural language processing. And not only will it be exciting to apply to document imaging and big data analysis, but as you mentioned before, expanding it out to other languages and making this a universally acceptable tool for everybody around the world. So I'd also like to thank AIM for hosting us today, and I'd also like to thank my co-presenters for doing an excellent job. You guys, you're on the marketing team for this week at least.
Well, thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Access Technical Group, for sponsoring our webinar today, and certainly for sharing the valuable information that you have presented. Always enjoy listening to your presentations. So that's all we do have time for today. For AIM, this is Teresa Resick, and we will see you next time. And have a good afternoon.